Hey, how are you guys? Today's video, I want it to be totally different. Every day of my life, I'm thinking to myself, what can I give different to my viewers? Okay, that's my job as a YouTuber. I gotta give you variety. I never want anybody to say, Octavio Michel's channel is about this. I want them to think, what is his channel about? He's got so many different things going on. Now, some videos are obviously going to be funny, upbeat, light, and some are going to be a little bit not that way. Today's video is going to be not that way because I want to do something different, you know? So I guess a natural way to jump into this is to say that there are hidden things that are happening in the world all the time. And we don't know about them because we don't see them, but they're happening. So today, I want to ask you a simple question. Do you believe that there is good and evil? That's the simple question. So I want to share a point of view with you and read a list of things that I have observed. Obviously, I don't have all of them because I don't have a lot of time in a video to give you everything, but I've written down some of the ones that I've thought as important. So obviously the ozone layer, right? We know that there are rich people with companies that are destroying our ozone layer. Not only the air, but also the environment, the trees, the water, the wildlife, the extinction of animals, right? But rich people don't care that their children or grandchildren are going to suffer, and it's their own blood. Okay, so does good and evil exist? Remember, that's the question. Next one, kids shooting each other in middle schools, and it's happened more than once. And people talk about mental illnesses, and I asked myself, weren't there mental illnesses in the 60s and 70s? And those type of things weren't that recurrent. They didn't happen, and if they happened, maybe once, but it's been more than once. Okay, again, does good and evil exist? Violence in video games, I mean, has gone up way, way up. Before, video games were something for enjoyment. Now they teach you how to assassinate, how to kill with strategies and thoughtful planning. And shooting somebody in the head is nothing. Okay, so I actually worked in a video store where a parent came in with the cops because his kid had bought a game that was too violent for them. And my brother, who was the owner, said, listen, he came in with an adult. So, he said to the cop, he came in with an adult. So obviously the cops let it go because my brother was right. But all of that happened because of the way that violence has gone up in video games. Again, does good and evil exist? Depression. There are so many people that are depressed and you don't know it. Because in Facebook, they put pictures like this and they're smiling. And then 2 weeks later, you hear that they committed suicide. Does good and evil exist? There's even a phrase for things now, teenage suicide. Before, teenagers didn't commit suicide that often. When you're a teenager, you take off your shirt, you look at your body, you feel good, you have that self-esteem, You're going to school, you're not paying rent. So obviously some teenagers work. I used to work, but I didn't have to work to pay rent. I worked because I wanted to make a little bit of extra money. And there are some teenagers that are paying rent, but that's the few, right? Most teenagers have their parents and all they're doing is going to school. Does good and evil exist? Loneliness. Loneliness has gone up immensely. There are so many people that feel alone, and guess what? Nobody knows about it because they don't talk about it. They don't say these things. They don't have the guts to say, listen, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling depressed, because we see that as weakness. Okay? So loneliness has gone up. Does good and evil exist? The addiction to cell phones is crazy. I've seen couples in restaurants with beautiful dinners in front of them, and instead of talking to each other, they're on their cell phones. No communication. And then a lot of people wonder why divorces have gone up so much. Because people are only getting physically attracted and they're not communicating. And I do have to admit that on the guy's part is even more, right? Guys talk less. But I also have to add that a lot of women like the serious, quiet type. But one thing is to date somebody, and another one is to marry that person and live with them for the rest of your life. You have to know what's going on inside that head. And if the person doesn't talk, you don't know what's going on. Okay, so again, divorces have gone up. Does good and evil exist? That's all that I have on the list for now. But I want to show you a video. And this video is strong, you know. But again, after you watch the video, the question is, does good and evil exist? Remember, the transition from me putting the computer where it has to go is a little bit awkward, so I ask you as an audience member to help me. Okay, I'm going to put pause, and I'm going to put it straight away. Okay, so that's Salma Hayek, and she's going to introduce Blake, okay? Live.
Blake Live. Thank you guys. Thank you, Salma. You are a role model in every facet of your life. She's the best mama and wife and leader and boss and producer and actress. And I want to be her every day. So thank you, Salma. And thank you to Variety for not only honoring and acknowledging women, but acknowledging the issues that we all need to be talking about. I'm just so grateful to be in the company of all of the women being honored here today. So I'm here today because I'm a mama and I have two baby girls. Well, they're not babies, but I think they are. James and Inez, and they are my world. And I would do anything to protect them. I would literally die for them without a moment's thought. And for those of you who have children, I think you know what I'm talking about. I mean, if you think of what you would do for your child, I don't think there's anything you wouldn't ask of yourself. So it got me thinking, what is the value of a single child's life? And what is the value of a child's life who isn't our own? Like, what is her little life worth or his little life worth, And the sexual exploitation of children is something that isn't happening rarely. It's not happening worlds away. It's happening right here and right now. So to show you guys that, while I'm talking, there's a map right here. And if you guys look up at this map, every time a dot shows up, is it live? What's happening? Oh, there you go. There you go. Now they have it live. So every time a dot shows up, that is someone that's trading or viewing child pornography right now as we speak. So that's how prevalent this is. And I didn't really know what child pornography was. We all sort of have an idea of it, and I was afraid to ask as a mother, because it would be very painful to hear. And I felt like I had to ask, though, and I feel like I have to share it with you guys now. And it is disturbing, and I want to warn you, but I feel it's my responsibility to tell you guys because it is the truth, and I believe if we all knew this, we would dedicate much more of ourselves to stopping it. So when I asked what child pornography entailed, yes, it's nude images of boys and girls under the age of 18. But now, because of high-speed internet, it's also videos very prominently, and videos of kids, and by kids I mean prepubescent, visibly prepubescent, and they make the distinction because of the internet and there's so much content. These pedophiles are desensitized. Because of that, the kids are getting younger, and the content is getting that much more devastating. So when this law enforcement officer told me this, I asked him how young are the young kids he's seeing, and he told me infants. And I have a 6-month-old baby. So I said, what does that mean? You know, like what does an infant mean? And he said, with the umbilical cord still attached. I know it's so devastating to hear this, and I'm really sorry to share this, but I'm grateful that you guys are listening, because this is actually happening, and it's important that we know this, and that it resonates with us, so that we think about this in our days and in our personal life. So I asked them what happens in these videos, and unspeakable things happen, but I'm again going to speak about them, because I feel like if these kids are experiencing this, the least that they deserve is for us to hear what is actually happening to them. So no, it's not just touching. There's penetration. There is extreme torture and bondage. There's bestiality, which is having an animal penetrate the child or infant. There is incest. I mean, they said you think of it, anything you could think of, it's out there and it's being traded, and it's 30 to 50 million files a day being traded that we know of. I mean, you can see what's happening right now. And this is happening to any child and every child. 90% of children know their abusers. So, our children are at risk. You may know this person. It may be a doctor. It may be a coach. I thought that people that were working with children were people that wanted to protect them. But oftentimes, these people who have this propensity for wanting to lure children, and they find out a profession that gives them access to children, and lots of them. And ideal victims are young children, because they can't speak up, and they don't make great witnesses. If they do, only 10% of children actually do speak up once they've been abused. So what's incredible about the Child Rescue Coalition is that they are proactive. They don't wait for these children to speak up. They can identify these pedophiles. They can see the IP address that's trading this child pornography. They don't know, there's no privacy issues, there's no big brothering. They see the IP address of who's trading these files, and they give that to law enforcement. And the trading of these files is a felony, so law enforcement can knock on that person's door and see if that person has access to a child, because the average abuser abuses between 50 and 100 children in their lifetime. Per person, per abuser, and the average person that views child pornography, between 55 and 90% of people viewing it are actually hands-on abusers or will become abusers. And you think that sounds like a lot, 50 to 100, maybe that's unrealistic, but the kids age out of the age that they stay silent, or they age out of the sexual preference of the predator. And I was told the story of an oncologist, a pediatric oncologist, who was raping his children with cancer by the hundreds. And there was a nurse who was working with children with mental and physical disabilities. And when he was caught, they asked him how many children he abused. And he looked outside the window at the snow and said, "How many snowflakes are there outside?" So this is so prevalent, and I want you guys to know this, and I want it to resonate with you, and I want you to see that the Child Rescue Coalition, in just 3 years, has found 9,000 predators so far. They have saved 2,000 children. And yes, they need donations. That's great, because then they can continue to make this tool free for law enforcement. But they also really need introductions, which is why I've been talking for way too long, and I'm very aware of that, and I'm sorry. But you guys are all very important and well-connected people. So this is my time to tell you, they need introductions. They need introductions to big companies. So for example, let's say, because they have the IP address of all of these predators, they could give the IP address over to care.com or Uber. And if that person is filing for an application to work at this company to become a nanny or a driver, they're immediately rejected because they've traded child pornography. Or if Comcast wants to receive their list of IP addresses, or any big internet service provider, they can block that content from being shared because they know what those files are. There are no privacy issues. They just block that illegal content. So why the hell are we not doing this? It makes no sense. We have to make these introductions. We have to help these kids. it doesn't infringe on anything legally. So I just encourage you. Table 17, we have flyers with a list of companies that need introductions. So thank you to Carly Eust, who's here, the founder and CEO of the Child Rescue Coalition. She is the real hero, along with everybody at the coalition. Bill Wiltsey, thank you to everybody protecting our children. They are the real heroes. And thank you to all of you who spent your afternoon sitting here, listening to all of us talk about these things that are really painful. And I just think, I just feel really grateful to have the opportunity to speak for the people that aren't able to speak for themselves. And I know that all of us feel that way today. So thank you for valuing everyone's life, for these children's lives. Thank you. Sorry for talking for so long.
So if you want to see it in YouTube, it's called Blake Lively Gives Emotional Speech on Child Pornography. So that's the video I wanted to show you. And again, my question is, does good and evil exist? The part, obviously, all of it makes anybody go uneasy. But when she said that the umbilical cord from the infants were there as the people were having sex with them, that's not mental illness. That's demonic. That's unnatural. So good and evil does exist. I wanted to share this with you because it's important that we talk about the things that nobody talks about. You know, in school, in colleges, at work, we're all taught to talk about money and relationships, but there are things that are going on in the world that are also important. And obviously, this is incredible. I mean, can it, it, I can't even put words into it. So today's video had to be serious. Today's video had to be different. But I want you to please take into consideration that this is not just a pedophile issue. This is not just, mental illness. This is unnatural things. And you want to hear something even more disturbing? That video, if you go into it, it has obviously a whole bunch of likes, but it has 589 dislikes, which means half of 1,000 people did not like that speech, which makes you think, does good and evil exist? How can you listen to a speech like that and say you don't like it, that you don't want to hear it, or maybe that you don't believe with it? So you believe that kids should be raped? Okay, so good and evil does exist. And if you want to see a picture of good, this is good. My first encounter with this person was in the 7th grade. I remember raising my hand and I said, what does BC mean? I see at the end of the pages that it says BC. And the teacher said, before Christ. And I said in my head, like, isn't that some Bible guy? What's he doing in my history book? Okay, so Christ is so real that he's even in history books, although it's categorized as religion. This is real. Good and evil exists. Christmas is not about the Christmas trees or about the gifts or about getting together with your family, because some people don't have families. What if you're an orphan? Christmas is about the birth of Christ. If you separate the word Christmas and you take out the mess, it just says Christ. Okay, so please understand that we have to understand that society is changing daily, and we have to speak up if we know about something. So that was the video for today. I know it was not a a pleasing video, but it's a necessary video.